Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier, and thank you as always for stopping by. Let's start with some macro thoughts. The Bank of Japan Governor Kuroda says the global economy has finally reached escape velocity. And I think that's a positive sign if it's coming from him. My piece over the weekend was about the commodity markets and why I put out a crude oil price target of $32 a barrel. And I was saying it's a Wizard of Oz moment, folks. There is no one behind the curtain, and this market is primed to crash, I said. Have a look at this long-term chart for crude oil from Jacob Awol. And I think it just reiterates that point I'm making. The VIX, this is quite extraordinary, has dropped below 10 after the French vote eased geopolitical risk. The CBOE Volatility Index dropped below 10 on Monday following the French election, making its lowest level on an intraday basis since February 2007. At this level, the so-called fear gauge is flirting with the lowest close since January the 24th of the same year, when it finished the day at 9.89. Our macro risk index is at extreme lows. Readings below 4.1% have only been observed on 31 days since 1997, a Citibank. The CBOE Volatility Index closed at its lowest level since 1993. This is an extraordinary outcome and highly unusual, and it probably is, made me think of the words Halcyon days, that calm in the middle of a massive storm or a storm season. Mohammed Hersi, Mombasa looking good. Is from afar. It's very dirty. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Lao Tzu. I like this photograph from a Coco 3 weeks ago. This spontaneous snapshot is special to me. The school books on the right add a little extra narrative to the vignette, David Yarrow. Lao Tzu again. Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. Then I like this. There's a long list of excursions at Anantara's first European resort, but you may just stay put all day long. Looked attractive. This is still my favorite Lao Tzu. Men are born soft and supple. Dead they are stiff and hard. Plants are born tender and pliant. Dead they are brittle and dry. Thus, whoever is stiff and inflexible is a disciple of death. Whoever is soft and yielding is a disciple of life. The hard and the stiff will be broken. The soft and the supple will prevail. In 3 years, Macron has risen from an unknown government advisor to France's youngest head of state since Napoleon. Pepe Escobar, typically tongue-in-cheek, is calling him Emmanuel Clinton and the revolt of the elites. So in the end, the West was saved by the election of Emmanuel Macron. As President of France, relief in Brussels, a buoyant Eurozone, rallies in Asian markets. That was always a no-brainer. After all, Macron was endorsed by the EU goddess of the market and Barack Obama, and he was fully backed by the French ruling class. This was a referendum on the EU, and the EU, in its current setup, won. What French voters have sort of endorsed is the unity of neoliberal economy and cultural liberalism. Call it like Michel, integrated liberalism. or, with all the Orwellian overtones, post-democratic capitalism. A true revolt of the elites, and peasants buy it willingly. Let them eat overpriced croissants. Once again, France is leading the West. Pepe is, of course, always irreverent. Barack Obama personally warned Donald Trump not to hire Michael Flynn. And I thought to myself, that's probably why Donald Trump hired him. Let me eat cake. Look at this cartoon from Chelsea Handler. And on a more serious point, the number of people fleeing a country increases by 1.9% for each percentage increase of food insecurity, the UN World Food Programme has said. US Navy yet to test Beijing's reef claims in South China Sea. A hiatus in freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea under Donald Trump's presidency does not mean the disputed waterway is becoming a diminished priority for the US, according to the Pacific Fleet Commander Scott Swift. We just went through a change in administration, he said. I'm not surprised that process has continued in a dialogue as the new administration gets its feet on the ground and determines where would be appropriate to take advantage of these opportunities and where we may want to wait. It seems they've backed down tremendously, and one wonders if that was part of a deal with Xi Jinping. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 109.16 came off those highs of 110 plus. Dollar index, keep an eye on this, 99.27, creeping up to that level of 99.50, which is the pivot. Japanese yen, big move there, 113.58 now, looking as if it's going to 115. Swiss franc 0.9995, the pound 129.44, the Aussie, which has been crushed, 0.7346, Indian rupee 64.535. That's been very firm. Stock market's been good. It's been one of the darling markets of 2017. South Korean won 1138.48, Brazilian real 319.80, Egyptian pound 1810.48, and the South African rand on a softening trend 13.6822. Target for that is 1440. Take a look at this dollar index, 99.245 when I looked last. 99.50 is key and feels it could. And it feels as if it could regain that level momentarily, and that turns things bullish again. But if you look at what's happening, dollar yen, Aussie dollar, you're seeing some very big moves in favor of the dollar. Look at this Australian dollar 1-year chart. It's been a precipitous drop. We're now trading at what, 0.7347. Okay, it might be correlated to iron ore some, and you can have a look at this iron ore chart from Bloomberg. Revival has now been snuffed out. Chinese stocks on track for a longest streak of daily losses in 4 years. That's from David Inglis. Let's take a look at gold. Gold was last trading at 1227.22. It's begun to find some kind of foothold here after rejecting that area around 1300 when we really looked as if it was set to push all the way. Crude oil getting a little bit of a bounce today, WTI at $46.95. I'm very bearish about oil. I think we're going to have a precipitous drop there as well, and I'm looking for $32. Copper below $5,500 a ton, lowest since December 2016. That's from Javier Blas. Interesting tweet I saw from Awais Sheikh. Pakistan equity market has been the top performer in the Asia Pacific and has posted the highest in adjusted return on 1 year, 3 year and 5 year period. Korean flashpoints in markets. Take a look at this from Thomson Reuters. Let's move on to Africa. President Mugabe's party said to be planning to disrupt the Zimbabwean opposition. They're beginning to get nervous. President Mugabe's ruling party is discussing using a press clampdown and intimidation in rural areas to thwart a newly united opposition's challenge to its 3-decade rule in elections next year, according to 3 senior officials with knowledge of the matter. Officials of the Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front are increasingly concerned the health of Mr. Mugabe, who's 93, may undermine his campaign, and alternative candidates would struggle to beat a coalition of parties united behind opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai, MDC, according to the members of the party's Politburo, who asked not to be identified because the discussions have not yet been made public. ZANU-PF will close ranks ahead of the election and stem the faction fighting that's divided it in recent months, Ruhanya said. Knowing the real threat of united opposition, they're going to come together. 25th of July 2016, I wrote, countries like Zimbabwe feel like they are right at the edge, an edge that was described thus by Hunter S. Thompson. The edge, there is no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over. Africa investors eye niche markets as biggest economies slip. We spoke about that trend last year and prior to that. Ivory Coast, Senegal, Ghana, Rwanda, and Ethiopia are among countries featuring on the radar screens of investors attending the World Economic Forum's annual gathering. There is a more nuanced story in Africa, said Razia Khan. There are pockets of strength and turnaround. Local factors matter much more than they did in the past. Africa attracted $94.1 billion of foreign direct investment last year, up from $71.3 billion the year before, accounting firm EY said in its 2017 Africa Attractiveness Report. While investors are seeking opportunities in Nigeria, Kenya, and especially Ethiopia, French West Africa is a region of interest, particularly Ivory Coast and Senegal. To realize their full investment and growth potential, African economies need a sustained period of structural transformation, according to Khan. What you really need is a period of several decades where 6 to 7% growth can be sustained. We're not seeing that anywhere in the region yet. South African oil shares up 6.01% this year, dollar versus rand, 13.69 last. My new target is 14.40. Nigeria's President Buhari, who's taking off for London for a medical, he's seen here welcoming a group of Chibok girls who were held captive by the militant group Boko Haram. The Nigerian oil shares down 1.69% this year, becoming a bit of a recovery. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index up 12.1% this year. Biggest Congo bank plans home market drive before regional entry. Raw Bank Sari. Our first priority is to cover the Congo and then look to expand into neighboring countries with a listing on a stock market. Kenya electoral body says it's on track to hold fair August 8th vote. The IEBC will have audited voter registration lists ready 30 days before the vote, its head Ezra Chiloba told reporters on Monday. President Kenyatta is running for a second term against former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who's failed in 3 previous presidential bids. Citizens must trust that the Commission is doing the right thing to ensure that the law is followed to the letter. I want to assure all stakeholders that our commitment to a free, fair, and credible process is steadfast. Chiloba said the IEBC estimates about 19.6 million people have registered to vote. The Commission will distribute 11,000 biometric kits used to verify voter identification on May 11th. There's a lot of skepticism around the IEBC being ready and or able to meet these deadlines. Lawmakers are split on President Kenyatta's move to lower food prices. On Sunday, State House spokesperson said the president was concerned about the rising cost of essential commodities. The president has settled on fresh measures through a supplementary budget to address the situation, Mr. Esipisu said. And I wrote about this. I said there's a political dynamic at work. Food price increases have a big outsized positive negative well-being effect, and obviously it's working in a negative well-being effect manner at the moment. Nakumatt Supermarkets has announced that it is undertaking a business restructuring exercise which will lead to the closure of several unprofitable branches across Kenya and Uganda. Retailer says this is part of a cost-cutting strategy aimed at reducing its total cost base by up to $1.5 billion shillings annually and streamline most of its operations. It feels like it's in a death spiral now. Kenya shilling 103.20, Nairobi all share up 2.61% this year, rallied 1.18% yesterday. It's at a 28th of November 2016 high. Safaricom, ahead of its full year earnings release, surged 3.8% yesterday. If you're interested in the detail of the share price, the link is there on Rich Wrap-Ups. KCB is up 15.625% so far this year. KenGen is up 14.655%. And it's right up against chart resistance. It breaks this level of 665. It runs up to 8 quite quickly. I mentioned in my piece over the weekend how avocados, which are not in the commodity basket, have found an off-ramp and are at all-time highs. And the best avocado I've ever tasted was at Mara Fairmont in the Masai Mara. I'll put up a picture of it. They grew it on site. And one of the companies here, which actually grows a lot of avocados, is Kakuzi, has a market cap of $55 million US, and the share price is up 1.94% this year. And in fact, in their full year results, they spoke about unprecedented demand for avocado, and the resultant undersupply in the market meant record prices. NSE 20 is down 1% this year. Kenya's key donor, USAID, suspends funding and grant activities to Kenya's Ministry of Health. What a debacle. I took the shot of Westlands Road last night. Have a look. And finally, Catalyst has acquired Jambo Biscuits, the maker of confectionaries under the Britannia brand. It's a strong brand, actually. Probably a smart purchase as well. Once again, thank you for stopping by. Remember, the big deal tomorrow is the release of full year Safaricom results before the opening of the market. That's early morning, and do tune in. We'll be live streaming that interview with Bob, as we always do. Thank you.